I'm just honored and delighted that you're here, all of you. Welcome to the Martin Luther King Convergence interview series, Pathways to Peace in Ukraine. My name is Tezkaya Gabriel. I am the Executive Director of Pathways to Peace. Pathways to Peace, the organization, will be conducting these interviews for a total of 7 days, beginning yesterday and ending on February 23rd in this Zoom room and at this time. So we will be interviewing incredible peace leaders as lead up to the beloved community convergence on February 24th and 25th, and the summit on the Ukraine that will take place on February 27th through March 3rd and is hosted by Humanity Rising. I will be putting that information in the chat for you so that you'll have that. And we welcome you to all of those events. And we hope you're able to attend our interview series. We have, as I said, just some incredible peace leaders. And I'm just so honored and delighted to be with Mia Rodriguez today. This is a very special interview for me, and I know will be for you as well. So Mia is a peace activist, a Pathways to Peace student representative at the UN, and is co-vice president of our Pathways to Peace Council of Directors. So by way of introduction, I am going to just share with you the information that Mia gave to us. And I'm going to do that in her voice versus changing it. So if you haven't yet had an opportunity to look at Mia's bio, here it is in her voice. My name is Mia Rodriguez. I am currently 16 years old, attending St. John Vianney High School. Did I pronounce that right, Mia? Thank you. I am Caribbean of Puerto Rican and Dominican descent. Although I've grown up in the United States, I have always felt a deep-rooted connection to my culture, and it has become one of my many calls to action. As a child, my parents taught me that I must leave this world better than when I first entered it, an ideal that I intend to achieve through my work with Pathways to Peace and beyond. My passion for my culture and peace building led me to speak at the 2022 International Day of Peace at the United Nations, addressing the General Assembly about ending the cycle of racism and hatred, which has plagued not only our communities, but our world. I wish to give platforms for the voiceless and encourage other youth leaders to show the world how much power there is within standing together across generations, cultures, ethnicities, and many faiths. As I navigate my way through life, I will continue to advocate for underrepresented communities in hopes of uniting our world. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, it isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it. And so it is just my honor and privilege to introduce to you Mia Rodriguez. Mia?
Hello, everyone.
Yes. And so, Mia, I've given you some questions. Let me make sure we're getting everybody into the room here. Yes, looks like we are. I've given you some interview questions, and I can ask those, but what I want you to know is I don't want you to be limited by those questions, okay? Feel free to just speak your own heart and whatever comes to you as you address those questions. And if you have questions that you want to ask us, I encourage that as well. So we'll see how I have told you, and I will tell everyone that I have learned a lot from you, and that your wisdom is always deep and profound. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. So Mia, let's begin with telling us about your pathway to peace, your personal story about where you've been and where it has taken you.
I've always felt called towards making a difference in my community, whether it be volunteering, projects with Girl Scouts, or even addressing the United Nations at the General Assembly, which we mentioned earlier, which was an incredible experience that I will forever be grateful for. It's one of those things that it's like a pipe dream and you don't think it's going to happen, and then it does, and it's unbelievable. But where it really all started was my freshman year of high school when I attended Modern Day Prep before its closing. I entered a global leaders class, and with the help of my teacher, George Anthony, he helped me branch out and attend events to speak my truth, even if they were virtual. At the time with COVID regulations, we were not able to attend the UN in person, but it had always been an aspiration of mine, which I achieved this year at the 2022 International Day of Peace. Advice I would give to other youth leaders who want to create change within their communities is definitely by getting your school involved. Creating a club, finding a cause you support, and a group of other leaders who wish to join you on that journey. Even by starting with small projects, you can make the greatest waves of change. And that's not just limited to students. If you wish to make a difference in your community, there are so many things you can do. Even in acts of service, you can make such a big difference.
So beautiful. Mia, let's back up, because I know you're very dedicated to the work of ending racism and bigotry and lifting up marginalized communities and bringing people together across generations, as you spoke about in your bio. So what is the origin of that for you? Where did that deep passion and commitment come from?
Definitely my culture and my family. From young, my parents wanted me to get all the experiences that I could and not be limited by that, even though there are people who see me in a different light because of that. Even my grandmother, when she was going through life and going through college, people didn't believe in her that she could achieve what she wanted to do just because of the color of her skin. Her original roommate that she actually had in college didn't want to room with her because of that. So it goes to show how far injustices really go in the history of our world. And because of this and how far we've gone, I believe that we can't stop. You know, there's really no end to this. We have to end teaching our children this hatred, because children aren't born with the hate in their hearts, they're really taught it. So if we branch out in our educational systems and teach history, then we can really end it from repeating. So,
yeah, that's so important, that piece that you talk about, that we can unlearn these learned behaviors, and how important it is to do that. I think particularly in these times, right? Yeah. And so talk about that work. I loved the origin of it. So how does that work play out for you today? I know about the UN and your presence there, which was just so glorious for us, as well as for you. What are you doing with that passion and that commitment today? Where do you play out that in your work today?
definitely just trying to show representation within our communities. If we branch out in the groups and organizations that we're a part of and have all different cultures, ethnicities, faiths, we can really show that it's possible for anyone to achieve their dreams. So I think that showing that representation is really important, especially for young children to see that people like them can achieve exactly what they want to do and they aren't limited by that. So it's very important to get involved in different things and show the representation.
So important. So, what are your greatest involvements right now, or what makes your heart sing that you're able to do these days around your commitment to peace and serving marginalized communities?
Well, definitely getting the chance to speak in meetings like these, speaking at the United Nations. When I worked with Mr. Anthony, and I still continue to do so today, we were able to make videos bringing awareness to the voiceless communities all around the world, because definitely those issues that don't get enough attention are the ones that get pushed under the rug, and it happens all the time. And being uninformed is really like the cause of a lot of these issues, because if you're not aware that something is happening, how will you know how to help? So by bringing awareness to these issues that often people forget about, we get to remind the people all around us that they need to step in and do their part.
So beautiful, Mia. So I am wondering so many of us have kind of a vision we carry with us about how a peaceful world looks, or that we have our own definition of peace that we carry with us that helps inspire our work. Could you tell me a little bit about what's your vision or what's your definition of peace that kind of inspires you to keep on keeping on?
My definition of peace is just definitely a state in which people can just be people. It sounds weird, but in this world, it's very hard to do anything without labels, hatred, and jealousy. A world of peace, in my mind, is one of love, where we can live freely and support each other without means of violence.
Mm-hmm. Yes, a violence-free world. That's beautiful. Thank you. And so one of the things that we are going to do today is we're going to break for a pause for peace. We're going to pause in the middle of our interview and bring you back, but we're going to pause for the Pathways to Peace Wave. And typically that peace wave is practiced at noon in every time zone. And it was developed in 1983 by our beloved Avon Madison, who I know was very important to you. And so I wonder, Mia, if you'd be willing to share a few words about Avon and her work and her influence on your work.
Well, Avon was really what got me involved in a lot of these things and how I got involved into Pathways to Peace. She was a beautiful soul who sought the good in everyone. She saw potential in me that I didn't even know that I had. She had encouraged me to move forward in my peacemaking journey, even when I was scared to do so or would let go of opportunities because of the fear. But she really encouraged me, and she had this ability to see past insecurities and fear that you had to see what was truly in your heart. And that's something that not everyone can do. So she was really just a special individual that will never be replaced or forgotten.
Thank you, Mia. And a part of this series, Pathways to Peace in Ukraine, is really inspired by Avon. Even though she left us, she ascended about a year and a half ago. Her inspiration and her memory still serves us today. We know that she is directing and guiding our work from the other side. And that opens up so many opportunities for all of us to do our best to bring peace to our world. And I know that's true for you as well. So I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that peace wave, and we may end up going into it a little bit early, and that's fine. And then we'll pause for that minute of silence, moment of peace. and then we'll pick up with you afterwards. So again, I so appreciate you being here, and I encourage our audience to stay with us for this entire time that we're together today. So the peace wave is very important. The story is that it was 1983, and the United Nations resolution for the International Day of Peace had passed, and AVEN and Assistant Secretary General Robert Mueller were talking about the fact that nothing had really happened. And so they came up together with the peace wave, and the original intent was for it to be at 12 noon in San Francisco, which is the birthplace of the United Nations. But then it would be 3 o'clock at the United Nations and could be used as the opening of the General Assembly. Today, the peace wave is practiced in all time zones at 12 noon. And it's very simply taking 1 minute of silence, 1 moment to embrace peace. And therefore, in all time zones, it creates a wave of peace around our planet. So millions of people today around our globe have been practicing the peace wave at 12 noon. So we invite everyone here to join that wave. And so I'm going to just take us into the peace wave, and then we will have that moment of silence. And then we'll come back and pick up our interview, Mia. So thank you. So let's just begin by slowing our breath. Breathing a little more slowly and a little more deeply. I like to imagine that I'm resting in the arms of the divine. Just allow our bodies to relax and to let go of all the busyness that surrounds our lives, and to just focus on our breath, that sacred breath. As we breathe together, that one breath. And as we breathe together, let's imagine peace, how that looks and how that feels to have peace in our world. And let us embrace that vision and hold that vision of peace as we move into the peace wave. Minute of silence, moment of peace. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We encourage you to join that wave in your own daily life. 12 noon in all time zones. So welcome back to our interview. If you've just joined us, we are graced with the presence of Mia Rodriguez, who is a Pathways to Peace student representative to the UN. She is a peace activist, and she's also our co-vice president of the Pathways to Peace Council of Directors. So, we are leading up to Humanity Rising's call to action on war in the Ukraine, which is following the beloved community convergence on February 24th and 25th, and is hosted by Humanity Rising. The title of this series of interviews this week is Pathways to Peace in the Ukraine. So I'm wondering, Mia, if you can talk a little bit about your thoughts on ways that we as peace builders might respond to the war in Ukraine and really other global conflicts. There are more than there have been for several decades. And so how might we as peace builders respond? What are your thoughts?
Well, the question over war and peace in Ukraine is such an important topic. Peace is a necessity. It's not arguable. This dangerous situation has been heading towards nuclear war in a capacity that could very much impact the entirety of the world. It is not an option to no longer not participate in the conversation. We as peace builders must work towards finding a mutual understanding which can halt the violence that is occurring in the world. Endless and meaningless violence will not create a solution to the problem, but rather more problems which may never meet a means to an end. The scale of destruction is incomprehensible. We must put our biases aside and realize how out of control the situation is. When we face dangers of this magnitude, we must remember nothing is worth the demolition of our planet. It is our job to stand together, not bound by countries, races, ethnicities, and political opinions, to unite humanity as a solid front against this. We cannot sit idly and wait for others to make the change for us. We have to be the change that we wish to see in the world.
I love that. And could you just share a few words or maybe even provide some advice to those of us who are peace builders from your own perspective? What advice would you give us? Let me just back up and say, what advice would you give us, Mia, as peace builders to bring peace to our planet?
Advice I would share is, as we work towards peace, is reminding the world of your sons, your daughters, and their grandchildren and their futures. We must recall why we urge a route of peace. It's the only thing that's worth fighting for in this world. Truth can be denied, but at the end, when we face the consequences of our actions, will we wish that we had strived more for peace? I feel that a quote by Gandhi best describes this situation. All compromise is based on give and take, but there can be no give and take on fundamentals. Any compromise on mere fundamentals is surrender, for it is all give and no take. We mustn't surrender to means of war and violence, but instead solidify our need for a fundamental such as peace.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask you, Mia, because you are inspiring and inspired in your work. So who are some of the heroes or sheroes that have inspired your work for peace?
Definitely, well, my parents for starters, which have always inspired me to take a route of peace and to do better in the world. Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi for one, I just quoted him. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which was always fighting for women's rights within our Supreme Court. And Definitely, even though this person may not have taken all the right approaches at times, they definitely had important things to say. So I believe that Malcolm X, his speeches and stuff were always really inspiring. So
Beautiful, thank you. And so we are going to bring in Dot Maver's voice and her Global Silent Minute as a closing to our time together. Dot can't be here, but we are going to bring her spirit and her presence in through her voice in that Global Silent Minute. But before we do that, I just want to ask Mia, do you have any last thoughts or words that you'd like to share?
One thing I would like to share is bringing awareness to the tragic event that occurred in Palestine, Ohio, which was getting very little media coverage up until now. There was a trail derailment which released a mass amount of toxic chemicals into the environment, killing native animals and pets and creating health concerns within the locals in that area. And due to financial situations, many people cannot just up and leave their entire lives. I mean, everything they've ever worked for is there. So they're forced to live in these dangerous situations that we won't even know the effects for years to come. And not only just that, the environmental damage is being compared to the events of Chernobyl. And it very much might be the worst environmental disaster that has ever happened in our world so far. So by bringing awareness to this, it can go to show that we can just possibly like send donations to those that have GoFundMe's online, to the people that may need support, and just sending your love and prayers for those people.
Thank you. So important. And so, Mia, I just want to say how grateful I am for you, for your voice, and for your work for peace. You are incredible. And I'm excited to see what more you'll be up to. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here, being a part of the Pathways to Peace family and beyond. Your work, your life, your messages go way beyond the scope of our single organization. And yet we are blessed by having you be a part of what we do for peace in the world. And I'd like to thank our audience before we go into Dot's Global Silence, our Global Minute. Thank you for being here. It means a lot for us to have you witness Mia's voice and her presence and her work. So thank you for being here. And we hope that you'll join the beloved Community Convergence. That information is in the chat, and the Global Summit on Ukraine, sponsored by Humanity Rising. It's a call to action for us to come together as peace builders, to create a collective and effective response. So thank you for being here, all of you. And so I am going to bring in Dot's voice. And Dot is an incredible peace leader. I think most of you know her and know of her work. She was instrumental in influencing us to create this series of 7 interviews that will end the 23rd. And so while Dot couldn't be here with us today, she did send me her words and her Global Silent Minute. So we're going to bring in the voice of our dear friend Dot Maver and close with that Global Silent Minute. Dot invites you to participate in the daily practice of a Global Silent Minute, the exact same minute everywhere, calibrated to 9 p.m. GMT for global cooperation, peace, and freedom. And now we will close with the Global Silent Minute, linking our hearts across distance, both sides of the veil. to invoke the spirit of peace as we hold the intention of the healing of nations, both within and between, for global cooperation, peace, and freedom, as we usher in the era of peace and put an end to all war and suffering. So let us prepare to enter the silence together. We take a deep breath and activate the spirit of peace within our own hearts. And we link our fiery hearts across distance. Now we take another moment and we invite all those on the other side of the veil to cooperate with us. We enter into the silence now, distributing our intention for everlasting peace. And thank you, all of you, for being here in this sacred circle. Thank you for being here for Mia. Thank you for your work for peace. Thank you for carrying that peace in your hearts and allowing it to emanate out to change everything. At Pathways to Peace, we always say, know you are a pathway to peace. Wherever you've come from, whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, please know you are a pathway to peace. And peace prevails on earth. Thank you. Thank you.